guys, welcome back to Mixed Doubles, the show that gives you the facts and the stats on the court and the juicy gossip and hot topics off the court. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Matt.
So, for a while now, the men have been grunting as to why the women earn as much as they do at the 4 Grand Slams. 13th seed Gilles Simon of France, who is on the ATP Player Council as well, has rekindled this debate over equal prize money, saying the men should be paid more than the women at the slams. They have two main arguments. Firstly, the men play best of 5 sets and the women play best of 3 at slams. Andy Murray, being one of the proponents of equal set play at slams, recently said in an interview, "I think either the men go 3 sets or the women go 5 sets. I think that's more what the guys tend to complain about rather than the equal prize money itself."
And the second argument is that the men are in the midst of a golden era with Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Djokovic and Murray taking their games and the sport to new heights. So in other words, the argument is that tennis is more fun when you have the men playing, and it's shown, it's evident by the fans and the matches that they tune in to watch and pay the tickets to go see.
Correct. However, the women's argument on this is that as far as the entertainment and popularity value goes, it's cyclical. I mean, if we look back at the 1990s, when Martina Hingis, the Williams sisters, and Anna Kournikova battled veterans like Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, Lindsay Davenport, the women were the bigger box office draw. It's actually the women who have a bunch of exciting youngsters coming up from which that combination of champion material and advertisers' dreams are likely to emerge. Look at American Sloane Stephens, Madison Keys, Britain's Laura Robson, Puerto Rican Monica Puig, Canadian Eugenie Bouchard, French Kristina Mladenovic, and Croatian Donna Vekic.
You have the men's matches from all the 4 slams, and they're averaging just over 3 hours per match, or per final I should say, and the prize money with the women just over 2 hours. And the prize money itself is the same. So do the math, you're just kind of like, really? Like, what's the value?
I mean, I would say a lot of the most epic tournaments or matches that we've seen at the tournaments and the slams have been the 5 setters. So I think that that's a strong argument that everyone has right now against lowering the men to 2 out of 3 sets.
And where are the women in all this? That's the other question.
Well, I mean, you know, the argument then to not raise the women to 3 out of 5 sets is that it's going to increase the length of the tournaments, which are pretty long as is. And so that's going to then interfere with the tournaments that are coming up after. So the preceding tournaments are going to get cut into. And then let's not forget that, you know, the entertainment value of this sport is still of utmost importance. And so do you think TV channels are going to be wanting to, you know, broadcast so much tennis?
I think you have to find that sweet spot of value and what you're showing and work it out in the schedule. Director of tennis strategy analysis company called The Brain Game, Craig O'Shaughnessy, says that how hard you hit your serve has a domino effect on how the rest of the point develops and highlights the greatest difference between the men and the women. After analyzing the statistics, there's a vast difference between the speed of the men and women serves. Obviously, the men triumph in this department.
Right, so the men have a bigger serve. So while they dominate in that statistic, it's actually the women who dominate in the returning area. You know, essentially the men's games, they're so quick. It's like 160-mile-per-hour ace, you know, shank off the racket, hit into the net, another ace, game. The women return and they have longer points.
Maybe the answer is to maybe play 2 out of 3 sets all the way up to the round of 16. And then when you get to the quarterfinals, then go ahead and play your 3 out of 5 sets.
For both the men and the women?
For both the men and the women.
Okay.
Saves you on time, and maybe that saves the player at the end of the day for a more quality match when they get to the quarterfinals, and it becomes more of a marathon rather than a sprint when you're in that first week or a week and a half of the slam.
I mean, I'm going to have to agree. I think that that's a great solution.
You're agreeing with me?
I agree with you. I'm going to agree with you on that subject.
Mark
High
the
five.
date and time. Mark the date and time.
Okay, slams. Well, we actually have some opinions from the viewers, so let's go through a couple.
Phil from Los Angeles says, all of these arguments about how tennis should require equal pay for equal work is a bit ridiculous. Guess what? In today's world with most high-paying jobs, the pay has very little to do with the work, measured by the amount of hours. Rather, these high-paying jobs are more about what kind of roles they play, rather than by the amount of work. Tennis can justify the equal pay by believing men and women play equal roles in the tournaments.
That actually makes sense to me. Sarah from Palmdale says, the other way to see a 5-setter is you have many more chances to win. Very, very valid point. Just like what we were talking about, where the most epic matches that we've seen have been 5-setters.
Jordan from Florida says, the 5 sets isn't fair to the men because it wears them down much faster over time. Many players like Serena, Li Na, and others on the WTA are playing their best tennis at 30. The men are another story.
And this goes back to the whole argument, especially with Roger Federer. You know, they're saying that he's not moving as fast anymore. Is he going to make it many more years or even through this year? Or what's going on? And he's 32, same as Serena is also 32, and she's playing some of the best tennis of her life. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and please come back next week where we have a very special surprise guest.
Save it.
I'm not going to tell you guys. You're going to have to tune in to find out.
Check it out.
If you want to get in touch with us, shoot us an email at mixeddoubleswebtv@yahoo.com. That's spelled MXDDBLS web WEB TV @yahoo.com.